Hey y'all, hey, happy Monday. Listen, it is 9:51 where I live, and so your girl is got this come on, little girl. Got this after dark energy, okay? Meaning it's close or past my bedtime. I'm about 30 minutes out from my bedtime, and I'm gonna make the goal tonight. Um, but I wanted to come live, and this is what I wanted to talk about today. One of my, and I don't know, so one thing about me, I like to give credit. So if I hear something that's a universal thing, like a universal statement or something that a lot of people will say, I have no problem repeating it. But if I know I specifically got this phrase from a person, I'm always going to make sure I give credit. It's just a weird thing and probably don't even have to do it, but I do. And so I think the first person that I heard say this, but I'm sure he's not the only person to say it, was a guy by the name of Mark Batterson. And if you've never read any of his books, I would suggest you pick them up. He's a great author. Um, and I was reading his book, I believe it's in Win the Day. And he said in that book, I want to be famous in my own house. And I just really love when I read that, because what it did for me was give like labeling to a feeling that I've had and I have had for years. So I want to share a couple of things. One thing I want to share is a story about with my daughter, who is a teenager now, early teenager, just turned 13. Um, when she was a baby, and I was a brand new teacher, and listen, I was all in. Like I think most teachers are like this when they first start. I was all the way in. I wanted my lessons to be pristine and all the, and rigorous and differentiated and all the things that you need to do. I was a by the book teacher and I wanted everything to be right. So I spent a lot of time planning lessons, trying to make my classroom fun and engaging. And so I would work a lot of hours, especially in the early years, which I think is like anything you do. Like when I first became a teacher, you don't just become a good teacher by osmosis. It takes some work. And so I really had to put in the time to be able to develop the art of, be creating lessons and relaying information in a fun and impactful way to my kids. And so I would get to work. I think the school I was at, I can't remember. I think we had to be at school like 7:30, 7:45. But I would get there at 7, because something that about me is I don't like to just get to work and the kids are like on me, So I needed to get to work to have time. I would play music and just get the room set and just get my mind, my mental together. And so I got to work super duper early because I needed to get there and get like ready to receive students. It's like we get to work at like 7 in the morning, and I would probably leave campus in the first year. I think I left campus probably like 4 or 5 o'clock. But then I would come home, I would eat, and I would work like all into the night, 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, just tightening up lessons, grading papers, calling parents, doing all the things, super teaching it down. And so this one particular day, my daughter, who was probably like 1 at the time, I was on the couch. I'll never forget it. I remember like it was yesterday. I was on the couch and she was just kind of like at my knee, but I was busy working. And I remember saying like, hold on, baby, hold on. And my husband was across the room and he saw it. So to get the story, you really have to know my husband. He's very like laid back. He don't make no waves. He's pretty much okay with a lot of things. And when something's not okay, it's not okay. He's gonna let you know. Like he's not gonna bite his tongue about it. He's gonna be honest that this is a no and I don't like it or whatever. So when he speaks up, I really have a tendency to listen because he pretty easygoing. And so he meant what he said. And so this particular time, my husband said he kind of looked across the room and cocked his head and he was like, um, you don't see your baby need you? And I was like, I know, but I'm trying to like do this, I'm busy. I'm trying to do all the things. I'm teacher, super teachering it down. I'm teacher of the year. And he's like, I don't care nothing about none of that. Listen, I don't know what you're gonna have to rearrange. And so he told me, he said, I don't know what you're gonna have to rearrange or what you're gonna have to do differently, but you're gonna need to get yourself together, okay? Because your baby, your 1 year old needs you. And I was like, okay. So I gave it some thought, and it for me that moment. And this is the importance of allowing people to give you what I would call constructive, like criticism, because I could have taken offense to it, like I gotta work, I gotta do my job properly. But it really caused me to think about the way that I was teaching, and so it was an immediate shift for me. Um, I did have a something that happened to me shortly after that, but the point was I saw things differently that day, and I was like, you know what? I gotta get my priorities together. And it was the beginning of me creating these sort of like boundaries around my time. And so when I think about what the root of that is, and as my children get older, I needed balance. I did. Thank you, solution guy. And so as I think about like the older my children get, um, my Facebook memories pop up. My daughter's a teenager. I remember when she was a baby. And that time, y'all, passes so quickly. Like before you know it, my baby is, and I'm not sad about her being a teenager because it's a new season of our relationship, like the things that we're talking about and how we relate to each other and just how we hang and all these, like our relationship is changing because she's older. But I miss those baby years. I miss my baby, and hey, jump rope grandma. And so I miss my baby. And so um what I learned is those years they happen so quickly. They grow up so fast. And before you know it, not only will my children be adults, but this lifetime will be over. And when it's all said and done, this is what I think that we have to do as people be careful how we measure success. Because when you look at the world and you look at their success by the world standards, looks like a lot of things. And just because it looks like that in the world, that doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be your definition for success. That's not to say that you don't want to have nice things. Like, I want to have nice things. I want to have a nice house. I want to travel. I want those things too, but I don't want those things more than I want my children to choose me when they have options. So I realized like a day's gonna come where my children are gonna be grown and they're gonna have friends and they can go wherever they want to go, whether I tell them to go or not. And when that day comes, I pray that my children choose me when they have options. Meaning, when they go to college, they can choose whether they come home for Thanksgiving or not. I pray they choose me. I pray they choose to come home. And for me, that's like the like way up there as my definition of success. I talked the other day about how my husband literally pours into me, tells me how much he believes in me and all of these things. And it's like, I want to be that in his eyes. I want him to always see me as a great wife, like a good wife, not perfect, always working, trying to get better. But that's like the true measure of success for me. And so it really doesn't matter, like, if I achieve, I'm not gonna let me fix my words now because I know I'll be asking the Lord for stuff. Like, I won't say it doesn't matter if I achieve those things, but I don't want those worldly like standards of success more than I want for my family to love and appreciate me and to know that I love them. So I want to give you like 3 things that I intentionally do to try to like pour deposits because I'm busy. Oh, sorry, wrong word. I'm productive. I got a lot going on, right? I'm not busy. I'm productive. I'm producing around here. And so my schedule is full. And so sometimes it can be easy to get caught up in all the things that you have to do. And so one thing I always want my family to know, I always try to make sure I let them know that I love them, that I appreciate them. I do my best. So that's one thing. I just try to be loving. Like my son is probably he's probably the most affectionate person in the house. So he gets like the most affection because he's the kind of kid that if you don't give him a hug, he's just gonna make you give him one because it's just how he is. But I try to spend time, be affectionate, spend time with my family so they know that I love them. I try to compliment them when they do things well. Like it's easy to forget, like to make notice of the things that they do. So I try to compliment them. I try to listen to them. You would be amazed how far just a listening ear, like people having a space to share like what is happening in their day and just feel like somebody's listening to them. So I try to give that to my family. My daughter told me the other day, this is what she told me out, and it was like the biggest compliment that I could have received as a mother. She said, "You're a pretty supportive mom." She said, "You're very supportive." She said, "It takes you," she said, "It takes you a minute to figure out what's going on." She said, "You're gonna ask a lot of questions. It's gonna take you a minute to figure out what's going on." But she said, once you understand what's going on, you're very supportive. And that meant a lot to me because that is what I want to be to my family and to my kids, like to know that um I want to guide them as they become the best version of themselves, but I want to support them in being them. And so I just wanted to share that because I think in the everyday I don't want to say grind because I'm not in the business of like grinding, but in this everyday, just, producing and creating and doing all the things that, God has called us to do, and earning a living and being out in the world and doing all the things, I think that we can forget, especially when we have eyes on, we have so much ability to see what's happening in other people's lives. So when you go Instagram, all these outfits and hairs and jewelry and all these things. And it can be tempting sometimes to think that those things really measure or amount to success. And they don't. Not for me, they don't. And so my goal, when I heard Mark Batterson, when I read him say that, I was like, that's true. I want to be famous in my own home. I want to like hit the door. And I want my children to be so glad when I'm home. Like when my husband comes home, when they hear the garage, they're like, Dad is home. Like it's a big deal. It's exciting, And I want it to always be like that when I come into their space, to be like good energy. I never want my kids to be like, oh, she's home. Here she come. And so I think that in order to create that, you have to have these deposits that you put into the relationship. Now, I also believe that when you make your home like the key indicator, one of your key indicators for success, that is what I call a keystone habit. And those are habits that when you get this right, it's going to trickle over into other areas of your life. So when I get home right, every other area of my life gets blessed, right? And so I don't think that I have to sacrifice home for those things, because home seasons my ability to go out in the world and do these other things. And so that's what I want to talk about today. I just really want to be famous in my own home. And I do have financial goals. I do have professional goals that I believe that God wants me to achieve. But I think that God um, really used my husband that day to make sure that I knew to keep the main thing, the main thing. And ever since, I've never been the same since we had that conversation, and like to like kind of compounded. I think it was like the next year we ended up miscarrying, and I believe that miscarrying. It was like it was, well, I'm trying to think. Yeah, it was probably like the next year we miscarried. And so I remember thinking that it was because, I didn't have a handle on my time. And y'all, I've never been the same since. And so whenever I get in a season, I do have busy seasons where, I mean, I think that's just life. But whenever I get in a season where it feels like things are spiraling, there's overwhelming, there's so many things to do, I'm immediately reminded to like slow down and say, okay, what is the main thing here? You know what I'm saying? What is the main thing? And it's not, uh, my job, even though when I was teaching, and even now, I love my job. So it's like, but that's not the main thing. You go to school as a teacher, and this is why I want people to make sure they honor the teachers in their lives, because teachers it's the only profession that you're expected to give more deposits into other people's children than you are into your own. I heard a lady say once, and I'm about to get off on a teacher tangent because I'll do it in a New York minute, but I heard a lady say that basically she would operate, full speed in the school year, and her kids knew like summertime, that's us. And I remember we were in a meeting. I never forget. We were in a like a certification. I was in for like to teach AP courses, and I remember the lady sharing that like we were about to enter the season of busyness because school is starting back, and it's like that for so many educators, where the school year they pour, and their children do not get the best version of them, and then summertime's come, and your babies get your own children get two little funky months. Two little baby months of your time of undivided attention. And you're so wore out from the 10 you gave to other people's kids that you don't have nothing to get to yours. And so I'm saying all this to say that if you have children, honor the teachers that spend the time with them, because the sacrifice is great. You know what I'm saying? And it's not done begrudgingly, because most people who do the profession with the right heart, like they love it, they don't mind doing it, but it's easy for you to like burn yourself out on other people's kids, making more deposits than you making your own. And I just vowed very early in my career not to be that lady. And so just to see, y'all stay tuned on this teenage journey, because my daughter is definitely going into teenager, and I'm like, this how we gonna do this thing. We not gonna do it the typical teen. We ain't gonna do that stuff when people be like, she's a teenager. Like, gotta do all that stuff. And so but she's definitely growing up and starting to be more independent, and I want to walk alongside her as she does that, and I don't want to miss that. I don't want to, because just as sure As I remember that day when she was one, that was 12 years ago. And before I know it, the girl gonna be 25. Seriously, all jokes aside, before I know it, I'm looking, she's gonna be 25. Mm, mm, mm. She'll be 25 years old. Just like that. And so I'm not gonna miss any of it. I want to have all these memories and all of these photos and all of these moments and all of these conversations. And I just want to soak it up. And I want it to fuel me. Thank you, Miss Annette. I wanted to fuel me for the work that I do in the world. And so that's all I'm basically saying is that make sure that you keep the main thing. So even if it's not, you're like maybe you don't have young children like I do, which they getting older, but maybe you don't have young children, but you have relationships or things that really can be your measure of success. Because I just know that when we leave here, none of those things are gonna matter. Now, don't get me wrong. I'll never want nobody to think that I'm saying I don't want to live a nice lifestyle. I'm not saying that, Lord, because I have asked Him for. I have some very specific prayers about the kind of life that I want to live. And it takes some funds to do it. Okay, so I'm not saying that, but I am saying that I don't want that more than I want a relationship with God, a relationship with my husband, a relationship with my children. Like if I achieve any measure of success in the world and these three things are not intact, I have not won, I have not succeeded. And when I have these three areas intact, everything else gets blessed because that's my keystone habit. It's a keystone habit. And so I just want to remind somebody that keep the main thing, so that you can work in the area that's going to trickle over into other areas of your life. That's my word. All right, y'all. It is bedtime for me. It's 10:08. I think I did a great job today. I think I did a great job today. It's 10:08. I'm not on here looking all busted like I'm hanging on by a thread and it's after dark. I don't know. Maybe I'm getting used to the getting dark earlier. Maybe that's what's happening. Maybe this is what is going on because something about the nightfall. And I'm going to say this last example and I'm going to get on here. So, for example, my daughter, she's a cheerleader, and today was the first day back after Thanksgiving break. And I briefly recall the coach saying that there was a potentially could be a game. I thought that I read the text and text said we might have a game. Well, apparently there was a game that I wasn't ready for. So last night my daughter's like, hey, mommy. And for those of you who know, I usually have a master class on Monday. So I had to decide, am I going to push through and actually have this thing? What am I going to do? So my daughter said, mommy, I want you to come to my game, which she doesn't always press. Sometimes she's like, yeah, I don't got to come. And sometimes she's like, I want y'all to come. So today she wanted us to come. So do you know all the, like, I had meetings planned and all sorts of things, but I'm like, I'm going to rearrange all of this, and I just thank God for providing me a life that I can do that. But I'm like, I'm going to rearrange all of this because my child doesn't ask for much. This is what she asked for. Okay. And I want her to, I pray that she remembers these moments. She might not. She might not remember at all. But that's all I'm just saying. I'm just saying that you got to be willing to create your own measurement of success, and you got to make sure that it's at the top of that success list are the things that really matter: your health, your family, your relationship with God. Um, and just keep the main thing. And the world will have you all sorts of confused because while it isn't, I think that God wants us to be abundantly blessed and have uh financial freedom and nice things. I do believe He does. I believe I serve a God that wants me to have nice things. But He don't want the nice things to have me. You know what I'm saying? And so um keep the main thing. All right, y'all. That's all I got. Y'all have an amazing evening. I love y'all to life, and I will see you tomorrow. Peace. 38. Oh, yay. I'm so glad, Miss Annette. Thank you. Because I'm like, Lord, I just don't know. But I trust God enough to know that I just ask Him to guide me as a mother. Like, this is my Baptist clothes, Miss Annette, and open me back up. But I just ask God to give me guidance on what I should be doing as her mother. You know what I'm saying? And the goal is just to listen to his heeding of that and do the best I can. All right, y'all. I love y'all life. I'll see y'all tomorrow.